What's up guys, it's Joseph, and this is going to be my take on the top 5 handguns I would recommend to a woman, depending on what they're actually looking for. So I'm not a firearms instructor, but I have taken several females to the range, friends, family, and coworkers, and seen what they have trouble with and what they like. So the things I was looking for when choosing these handguns were the ease of manipulation of the firearms, so just how easy they are to manipulate, how easy they are to shoot confidently, and obviously their reliability. First, I'll name off these 5 handguns and their calibers, which will be 380 ACP, 9mm, and 22. First is the Ruger Security 380, the Sig Sauer P365-380, a full-size Glock, a Ruger Max 380, and a Taurus TX22. What I really like about the Ruger Security 380 are that out of all of these, it has the easiest slide to manipulate. It literally takes 2 fingers. And since it's the largest 380 here, it has the lowest recoil, and it has 15-round magazines. I bought the model that came with 2 15-round magazines, and what's really nice about having a higher capacity magazine is that the first rounds that you put in will be incredibly easy to load. So like, let's say you just want to load 10, those first 10 are going to be very easy, and then it starts gradually getting harder as you're compressing the spring. So in my opinion, a very good home defense handgun, 30 rounds in the magazine. Here on the slide you can see it has a thumb safety, very easy to turn the safety off. So just a flick of your thumb like that, and then press it up to turn the safety back on. The trigger on the Security 380 is definitely good enough if this is your first handgun, and you probably wouldn't even notice this if it's your first handgun, but the one downside of this gun is that the reset on the trigger is fairly long. So once you pull the trigger and it breaks, the amount that the trigger has to travel forward is the reset, and it's quite long. But like I said, you probably wouldn't even notice that unless you have a lot of experience with good triggers. The biggest criticism you might see of this pistol is the fact that it has a manual safety. A safety is definitely a feature that you have to train just to make sure that you don't forget that it's on at the time that you want to shoot. As you can see, I just added some white paint to make it extra visible, and when that rubs off, I'll probably just put some metallic silver Sharpie on it. This is the Sig Sauer P365-380. In the intro, I was shooting this without a red dot, so you can see you can add a red dot to this one. The smaller size of this one definitely makes it easier to carry, but that means it has a little bit more recoil than the Security 380. This one you can also get without a manual thumb safety. Since mine has no thumb safety, you would want to get a holster for it. This is a Vetter Light Tuck holster, and there is also a version that has a manual thumb safety, and I've tried it and it is pretty easy to use if you need a thumb safety. You normally see these with 2 10-round magazines, and that will be flat with the frame, like about here. You can see I have the 12-round magazine just for more ammo. With the 10-round magazine, I can barely get my pinky to help me grip, but with the 12-round magazine, it gives you a lot more space for all 3 of your fingers. The slide on this one is a little bit stiffer than the Security 380, but I can just barely bracket with 2 fingers, so with the full grip it would be very easy. The trigger on this one is a bit better than the Security 380. So the biggest criticism on this one would be that it is significantly more expensive than the Ruger Security 380, and this one generally requires a break-in period from what I've seen. When this gun is new, the slide is a bit stiffer, so I remember getting one failure where the slide didn't quite close all the way, so it stopped about there when it was loading, and I had to like hit the back in order to get it to load up all the way. And I've seen reports of people having failures to eject, which means after you shoot a round, the case has a problem getting fully out of the pistol, like it'll get stuck in here. I've even seen one video where a guy was having trouble with the cases getting ejected, and Sig told him that it might require up to 1,000 rounds of high-powered defensive ammo in order for the gun to fully break in. Personally, I've only had that one failure, and I believe that was in the very first magazine through this gun, and after that, I've shot about 300 rounds with no problems, even with regular range ammo. So the next recommendation would be a full-size 9mm. This one happens to be a Glock 34. A Glock 17 would also be a good choice. Here's another example of a 380 ACP versus a 9mm. The biggest benefit of 9mm is that it's more powerful, and it's so much more popular than the 380 that 9mm is actually going to be cheaper. And the reason I recommend a full size compared to a smaller gun would be that the higher mass reduces the amount of recoil that you feel when you shoot it. Being a 9mm, this will require more strength in pretty much every aspect. So I've seen people have trouble with locking the slide back, which requires all 4 fingers in my case. And sometimes people have trouble loading 9mm magazines. In this case, it comes with a 17 round. So eventually you'll get it, but one trick is to go to a bigger magazine. So this is a 24 round, and you can even get a 33 round magazine for a Glock. And eventually that is much easier to load, and you don't have to load it all the way up to get the same amount of ammo as you would in a smaller magazine. So here's the Glock with the 24 round magazine in it. One other con of a Glock is that the trigger is probably the worst out of this group. So it has the longest pull and hardest pull. And if you have enough grip strength to hold it firm, these are incredibly reliable. But if you don't have the grip strength, what can happen is you'll get a failure because your hand flips back and the slide loses energy and doesn't go all the way back as it should. So that's called limp wristing. So that would be one problem if you're not able to hold the grip hard enough when you're shooting. The fourth gun you see here is a Ruger LCP Max. This one is in 380 caliber again. Since the Ruger LCP Max is the smallest 380 here, it has the most felt recoil, but it's still pretty manageable. The slide is still easy to manipulate. These come with 10 round magazines that fit flush with the grip, but even with the 10 round magazine, you can't confidently get your pinky to get on the grip every time. So it's almost a necessity to upgrade to these 12 round magazines. With these 12 round magazines, my pinky fits comfortably on the grip. The biggest benefit of an LCP Max is that the lighter weight and thinness, smaller size, all make it easier, more comfortable to carry it around. But like I said, you are going to feel more recoil. With something a little bigger like the P365-380, you can go through a couple boxes of ammo at the range and your hand won't feel anything. But after maybe 50 rounds of 380 through the LCP Max, you might start to get some discomfort in your grip. So that's just something to consider. So this is the last of the traditional handguns, and then I'm going to go over a bonus gun. But this one is the Taurus TX22. This one is the competition model that you can put a red dot onto the top of the barrel. But the other models, like the Toro model, would be just the same. And that's because they both shoot this tiny little cartridge called the 22 long rifle. So this handgun by far has the least amount of felt recoil. And it's very easy to manipulate, just like the other ones. The magazine is incredibly easy to load since it has these little cheat extensions that let you just drop the round in. So when I take someone shooting for the first time ever, this is the one I'll show them. But the problem with this as a home defense gun, say, is that it's nowhere near as powerful or as reliable as 380 or 9mm. Since the round is so small, there's very little room for error. Like, you can see how small that chamber is. So that's why this 22 would be my least recommended here as a first handgun, unless you are 100% sure that you cannot even handle the recoil of a 380. Only at that point would this make a very good practice gun and a way to work your way up to 380 caliber at least, or up to 9mm. Most of the models I've seen of the TX22 have a manual thumb safety, but it is very easy to disable and engage. This TX22 came with two 16 round magazines, and luckily for me, this has been pretty reliable. I've only had 2 failures in about 500 rounds with this gun. The only footage I have of me shooting this pistol is with the suppressor attached, and so that's why it's so quiet in the video. For the bonus handgun, this is the CMMG Banshee pistol in 9mm. Here in the magazine, you can see the 9mm rounds, and since this has a brace instead of a stock, this is legally a handgun or pistol. So unlike when you shoot a 9mm handgun, there's a tendency for it to flip up. This one stays pretty much flat. A pistol like this Banshee is called a large format pistol, or more commonly a PCC for pistol caliber carbine. You can see how much more massive it is than even that large Glock. And so this is by far the most controllable with 9mm. Since this pistol has the same controls as an AR-15, this is also called an AR-9. And since it is so controllable, this is by far the most fun to shoot, and I've shot almost 2,500 rounds through it. An alternative to the Banshee that I also like and currently own is the Strybog SP9A3S, and I have a video of that on my channel as well. Finally, I'll mention that there is a new handgun out from Smith & Wesson called the Bodyguard 2.0 in 380 ACP, and it's very similar in size to the LCP Max. I haven't gotten a chance to shoot it, but I did handle it in the store, and it was very hard to lock the slide back in 2 of the models that I handled, so that's why I didn't really mention it at all in this video. Alright guys, that's about it for this one. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those down below. Like, subscribe, and share, and then I'll talk to you guys next time.